kind of cold. Good afternoon, or evening to some, afternoon, evening, early evening, or evening to each and every one of you. Give a chance for maybe some people to come in, and I want to discuss the three Americans that were found deceased from carbon monoxide, and then there was some other Americans too that were they were staying at a Bahamas resort. um, that's what they called it, and I'm going to get into that as well. But I wanted to talk to you and share that because I know that a lot of the focus has been on a lot of the latest killings, and one of them was with Shanquella uh, Robinson. And I just pray for the family that justice will be served and that they will get to the bottom of it, because there's a lot of articles that just came out about this. And who's to say who's telling the truth? And there's a death certificate that says one thing, and now there's some report coming out that said some reporter went over there, a journalist. And so I just pray for, that the truth will be revealed, because if anyone is innocent, my thing is that they should go forward to the authorities to tell what they know, what they were doing or where they were at, their location, and what transpired, and to be truthful if you are a person that is innocent in this whole thing, because right now there's a lot of suspects. So with that being said, I pray for Shanquella Robinson's family that they will receive the justice that they deserve. Okay, so let's get into this with the three Americans dead from carbon monoxide poisoning in Mexico City Airbnb. Now there were a woman and two men were found deceased in an apartment on October 30th. Jordan Marshall and Candace, Jordan Marshall, Kandace Florence, and they're originally from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And then there is Cortez Hall, who's a school teacher from New Orleans. They resided in New Orleans, and so they actually were found. They were staying actually in an Airbnb rental in Mexico City last month, and so the three were staying at a rental in a residential complex in the La Rosita, neighborhood when they were found dead, deceased on October 30th, according to the Attorney General's Office of Mexico City, which investigated the deaths. Now, the three friends, they were in town for the Day of the Dead festivities when Florence called her boyfriend and said she wasn't feeling well. Florence parents, and this is what they had relayed when they went on Good Morning America. Now, if anyone knows the Day of Dead, it is a pretty much a celebration that the Latino Hispanic community, it's a culture celebrates. It's Day of the Dead. They have it here, locally in two of the cities that I am very familiar with, and so they do participate in that. And I remember a time that a friend and we had went to a theater. We went to Fox Theater, and we were going to see the Electoral U, which was a very good live comedy play. And they were celebrating it, and we didn't even think anything of it. We got down there and we were trying to figure out why it was so many people and all these cars, and we had to park somewhat of a distance and walk to the theater. And then we realized, oh yeah, it's the Day of the Dead festivities, and this is what the culture, that particular culture, celebrates. So they were in town celebrating the Day of the Dead festivities, and Florence was feeling sick. She said that she was vomiting, dizzy, and her legs were wobbly, is what she told her mother, Frida Florence. Now, Marshall's sister, Jasmine Marshall, told Good Morning America that she received a message from Florence's boyfriend on Instagram that mentioned he wasn't able to reach Florence for the rest of the day after that call. So her boyfriend was worried about her, so that worried him. And so he contacted the Airbnb host to do a welfare check, and they were all found unresponsive. Now, security guards at the complex detected an intense gas smell in the apartment, and poisoning by gas inhalation was initially suspected, the Attorney General's office said in a statement this week. Blood tests determined that the three Americans, two men and a woman, died of carbon monoxide poisoning, the office said. Now, investigators discovered a failure in the apartment's gas boiler, which released a gas smell as well as carbon monoxide, a colorless, what it is, it's a colorless and odorless gas. So basically, it could be in your house and you may not even know it, and you could be suffering from it, and you can pass away from it. And that's why it is important to have a carbon monoxide monitor in your home. And I actually have one that I inherited actually from a house that we used to live in when we first relocated, as a military family. And so they left it, and we told them, they said, just keep it. So we wind up having it, and everywhere we went, we took it. So we still have it, and it still works. And what's supposed to happen, you plug it in the wall, and it's supposed to beep to detect if there's any carbon monoxide. And it's important to have one. If you don't have one, you might want to invest in one. I don't know the price of them. Again, I've had mine for some time now, and I don't know the price of them, but they are well worth having one, so that it can detect if there's any type of carbon monoxide in your residence or apartment or home or condo or townhome, wherever you may reside. To detect that, to save your life and your family's life, loved one's life, right? And so one of the victims was found dead, deceased in the bathroom, and is believed to have been attempting to take a shower, which could have activated the boiler, the spokesperson said. Now, if you are going to take a shower, I was reading this, and I said, okay, now if someone's going to take a shower, and it says they may have believed they were attempting to take a shower, and it could have activated the boiler. So why would that be a problem? Um, Unless the boiler is not working correctly, right? And so investigators discovered a failure in the apartment's gas boiler. And that's what it is. Like I just said, unless it wasn't working properly, you shouldn't have to worry about you're going to take a shower and something's going to be activated. And in that case, it released a gas smell as well as carbon monoxide, a colorless, an odorless gas, a spokesperson for the Attorney General's office said. And then the Airbnb spokesperson confirmed the three Americans were staying at a space listed on its platform. So this is a terrible tragedy. Of course it is, because we have Americans that have access, opportunity, and financial resources to go traveling. And so a lot of times Americans have been traveling out of the country to go, on vacations and to have a good time. And they're traveling to these different countries. And these countries, a lot of them, they do not have the same laws that we have. They don't operate the same way. They have different customs, different ways that they handle things and do things. And so you have to be very careful when you choose to go travel. And, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go travel. A lot of people want to travel places, and they do. But we're finding that a lot of Americans are going places, and they're traveling, and they're not making it back home. And we've seen a lot of that, even the Dominican Republic, where women traveled over their families, and some people did not make it back home. There have been stories of that in 2020, 2021, people not making it back home, maybe even prior to that, going over there, not making it back, unusual deaths, suspects of death, people going over for surgeries and not making it back. And the families are having a hard time trying to get answers, seeking answers, trying to see what happened, just to get answers so that they can just get closure. And a lot of that they're not able to do. And you have, people traveling to do whatever they're doing over there. And there's a lot of controversy going back and forth, and conspiracy theories and people's opinion about what happened with Miss Shanquella. And like I said, those different stories out there. And so, about what really transpired with her as well. And so it's a terrible tragedy that these families, these loved ones, these people, are now deceased. And the thoughts are with the family and loved ones as they face this heavy loss. An Airbnb spokesperson said in a statement to ABC News, and they're saying that their priority is now to support those affected while the authorities investigate what happened. And we are available to cooperate with the investigation in any way we can. Now, the U.S. Embassy in Mexico said it was closely monitoring the investigation into the deaths of the 3 U.S. citizens in the country. So they're closely monitoring it. But how does that make the family members feel? Closely monitoring something, but they really are still not getting the answers. And it says we stand ready to provide all appropriate consular assistance. It said in a statement earlier this week. Now, out of respect for the privacy of the families, we have nothing further to add at this time. Now, the 3 deaths come from another American that died from carbon monoxide poisoning while staying in a vacation rental in Mexico City last month. The victim's family told ABC San Diego station KGTV. Now, the woman's 2 siblings were also hospitalized due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Their family told the station. So this is even another story of, an individual passing away. And now the 3 American tours, who I were saying to you, they were found dead, and it's called a Bahamas resort in May. Also died of carbon monoxide poisoning. Officials said. Now, the victims' families are calling for more regulation around requiring functioning carbon monoxide detectors in rental properties. And that may be something that needs to happen, and may be something that may be that needs to be mandated to have a carbon monoxide detector. And who's going to think about that now? But by me doing this video, I don't know how many other people are talking about this or have already spoken about this, but bringing awareness that if you choose to go out of the country and you've seen this happen, maybe taking a carbon monoxide detector with you, placing it in the wall to determine prior to you spending the night in that room or hanging out in that room, put it in the wall and see if it will start to beep. If you must travel like that and go overseas, or ask the front desk when you get there, and if they don't have one, ask them how can you obtain one. But it may be better to have one if you're able to get through customs with a carbon monoxide detector. I don't know, they may consider that a weapon or something that you shouldn't have in your luggage. I don't know, but it might be a good idea to have the room tested to make sure before you hang out or fall asleep in a room, since it is odorless and gasless, to make sure that there is no carbon monoxide, that's been detected, so that you can have a good time while you're there and make it back home safely. And if for some reason there is a suspicion or detected carbon monoxide, you shall not stay in that room or even in that resort, because if it's in one room, it may be in the whole resort. And that's really sad to continue to see people losing their lives when they travel over into these other countries. Now, the victim's family, like I said, they're calling for more regulation, and they said that they will fight to make sure that mandates are implemented so no other family has to deal with this type of brokenness and heartache. Marshall's mother, Jennifer Marshall, told Good Morning America. And that's really true, that it is a heartache. And as I had stated before, when I did a post about, these senseless killings that's happening, it's a heartache. It's a loss to the family, financial, a human life, because, there's expenses that come with a burial and a funeral. And the fact is, it can turn families upside down. Some families can't cope, or they have to go into counseling or therapy to cope, because you can never replace a loved one. And then even with that, when these mass shootings happen, think about those. It disrupts a town, a city, a municipality, a state. It's a lot that is happening. And I think that we have to bring a lot more awareness to a lot of these deaths that are happening, where people are actually traveling out of the country and they're not returning home. Now, there's also teachers and business owner. He was a teachers and business owner who died of carbon monoxide poisoning at a Mexico City Airbnb. Brought light to those around them, the family said. So, and this is what they were talking about when they went over here. The 2 other individuals, Jordan Marshall actually was a 12th grade English teacher. And so he loved different cultures, and he was curious. He was a curious person, and there's nothing wrong with being curious, and loving different cultures. And and actually Cortez Hall, who was out of that was the 7th grade teacher. He actually loved to sing and dance and was the jokester of the family. And then Kandace, she had a pure heart and a mind and spurned that she, spurned negativity. She didn't like to deal with that. And so look what happened with them. They were actually over in the Mexican capital's La Rosita neighborhood. And so now they have launched, though the investigators have launched an investigation October 30th, looking into the death of the 3 foreigners derived from possible poisoning gas inhalation. And so it's just something that, needs to be looked into, and hoping that these families can get closure as well of the loss of their loved ones. And actually, Kandace, Miss Florence, stated that she thought someone had placed something actually in her drink, because she had been in the room and then they went out, to have a few drinks or whatnot. And she said she felt that way after the fact. So it's a suspect. She suspected that maybe somebody put something, because there is definitely uh you know uh people out there that are criminals, and what they'll do is they will go and put something in someone's drink because they're looking to set them up to commit criminal activity, or even to steal from the tourists, because they know that if you are a tourist, um you know they figure that you obviously have money to be traveling and being where you are, and so they're looking to steal from you, commit a crime. And so you got to be ever so careful of your travels. And it's unfortunate that these are the times that we are living in, where we're seeing a lot of American deaths traveling to these other countries. And now I wanted to also talk about, the public defender in the Parkland. The public defender's office wants the Parkland judge, in all cases, to be off of them. The public defender office is very upset, who that handled the Parkland case of Nicholas Cruz. They are upset with the judge, and they felt that the judge was very biased. They felt that the judge, Elizabeth Schurer, she leaned towards the, you know, attorneys, the district attorneys. Um, and so they were very upset with that. And so they feel that she was biased in favor of the prosecution, that she cannot be trusted to oversee cases handled by the Broward Public Defender's Office, according to dozens of motions filed in court last week. Now, Broward Circuit Judge Elizabeth Schurer drew criticism in the final days of the Parkland trial for hugging members of the prosecution team after proceedings had ended, and for dismissing the concerns of defense lawyers who felt they were being berated for doing their job. And if you have followed that trial, there was a lot that went on with that trial and with the prosecutors. And even one of them, they were talking about how one of them might have thrown up a finger sign, and it was just some back and forth. And you could tell there was some disgruntled, there was some contention going on. And you can tell that people were just not feeling this judge and feeling like they were not being heard, that they were not getting what they needed. And it goes back, it even not goes back, but think about the R. Kelly case, where the Me Too movement judge, I don't even like to say her name, you know who she is. She actually denied a lot of motions that were filed on behalf of the defense team for Mr. RSK. And she was very biased, and we know that she was very biased in that New York case. And so there are some judges out here that are very biased when it comes to prosecution of these cases. And that's why it's important that when we go to vote, that we need to vote, and we need to make sure that we are voting for the best candidate to sit on those benches. Because the thing about these judges, if you don't vote for them, or you don't look at their track record and see what type of cases have they handled, how long they've been handling, and what cases, sentencing, do they follow the sentencing guidelines? Are they giving? Do they give harsher sentences? And look at the who look at the nationality. Do they give harsher sentences to black people or black men versus white men or white people? Uh, do they overcharge? And is that allowed? We have to look at these things when we go to vote, because we have to make sure we are voting for judges that are going to be unbiased and are going to do the right thing, and that they're not going to have the scale so in favor of the prosecution and so not in favor of the defendant and violating the defendant's rights. Because remember, these allegations, when people make up allegations and charge them, maybe it's something small that they think they have, but then they start building up and bringing up all these different things and overcharging people. So it's very important. And so they are the defense lead attorney, Melissa McNeil, complained that the families of the victims of the Parkland mass shooting had taken their criticism of the defense team too far, making allusions to the attorney's children and complaining about the lawyer's professionalism. Now, the Broward Public Defender's Office was appointed to the case and legally required to provide the best case they could to preserve the life of defendant Nicholas Cruz, who was sentenced to life in prison, even though prosecutors were seeking the death penalty. So he did not get the death penalty, even though the prosecutors were seeking that. They gave this young man life in prison. And so we look at the victims' families. What are they going through? What is the suffering and the loss that they had? And then you look at the defendants attorneys, the lawyers. They want to preserve the life of their, because that's what they do, that's their job. And then they want to give less time as possible. We see that happen a lot going on. But how do you try to balance victims' families, the victims, the families that have lost loved ones? And then how do you balance, okay, how much time that this person deserved for the crime that they have committed or the murders they have committed? So there's a lot that goes on with that. And so the judge, they're saying, downplayed McNeil's objection and scolded Assistant Public Defender David Wheeler for insinuating that she would not tolerate such a reference to her own children. And I remember that because I was following it, and I said, this is becoming some type of circus in this courtroom. And you can see the contention, the contention and the division, and you can see, the frustration that and things like that, and the subliminals that were being thrown, and almost like shade being thrown during this time. And she also scolded the elected public defender Gordon Weeks, who made a rare public comment to express support for his staff. And he said this court treated counsel's concerns with disdain and contempt, dismissing defense attorneys from the table and the podium, according to the defense motions, which were filed on behalf of more than 140 defendants. Now, this court demeaned the work public defenders do and the integrity of the criminal justice system. Scherer has denied a handful of motions so far with little explanation. Legal rules require her to comment only on whether motions for recusal are legally sufficient. Any further comment will result in cases being removed from her docket. So she actually apparently was making sure that she was trying to follow, court decorum and what she is required to follow. And apparently the defense for Nicholas Cruz wasn't very happy about that. I don't know if it was a good idea for her to hug, the prosecutors. I don't know if that was a good idea. Now, let's talk about Jay Leno. He got released from the hospital 10 days after suffering burns to his face. And if you are aware of this, Jay Leno was working on a car in his garage, and he suffered burns to his face, chest, and his hands during a gasoline fire that happened in his home garage while he was working on a steam car. Now, the comedian was released from the Grossman Burn Center on Monday after a 10-day stay at the facility, according to a statement released by the hospital. And he will continue to receive follow-up care. So if you like Jay Leno, you follow him, you laugh at him, he's a comedian. I just wanted to give you that information. Dr. Peter Grossman stated he was pleased with Jay's progress, and he's optimistic that he will make a full recovery. Jay would like everyone to know how thankful he is for the care he received and is very appreciative of all the well wishes. And he's looking forward to spending Thanksgiving with his family and friends. And he wishes everyone a wonderful holiday weekend. Now, they showed him posing with the staff and and everything, and they shared just how long they've worked with him, and they are kind of glad that it was not life threatening and that he will have a make a recovery, and he will be just fine. And so they were talking about like this steam car, and a steam car is made by gas, and he got sprayed with some gas and then it ignited. That's basically what happened. And despite that incident, he remained conscious and called him to tell him what happened. He told me there was a fire and the fire department was coming, so they did show up to put the flames out. And he got the treatment that he had, but he had some serious burns, like a second to a third degree burns, and and everything. And he had to cancel his event, that he was a conference or something in Las Vegas, because of what happened. And so I thank God, that he's all right. Just like we think about other loved ones, wanting to make sure that they are okay, or people that we admire, we follow, and things like that. Now, I wanted to bring this to you as well, that there is a NBA trainer. An NBA trainer is accused of drugging, raping women held without bail. Now, the top NBA trainer, Robert McClanahan, faced a judge Monday after he was accused of drugging and sexually assaulting a woman in Boston. The 43-year-old was ordered held without bail by a judge in Warwick, Rhode Island. He will be transferred to Boston on Tuesday. Now, according to paperwork from Boston police, McClanahan and the alleged victim met on a dating app. They met up at a Boston hotel bar. The alleged victim had 1 to 2 drinks, and they went up to the woman's hotel room. The woman said she blacked out shortly after getting to the hotel room, and she reported waking up alone, covered in bruises and in pain, leading her to believe she was drugged and raped. Now, a warrant for McClanahan's arrest was issued out of Boston Municipal Court on Thursday, and he was found 1 day later in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. Now, according to McClanahan's website, he is a premier skills development trainer who has worked with NBA stars like Al Horford and Stephen Curry. And so he right now is in jail. And so we don't know what's going to happen with him. So once I will keep you posted on that story as well, any updates on that. And then August Alsina. Now, there has been some controversy around August Alsina with Jada Pinkett Smith. And August Alsina is a rapper, a singer. And so, there was this infamous entanglement between Jada Pinkett Smith and August Alsina, and knowing that Jada Pinkett Smith is married still to Will Smith. Now, August Alsina, I believe he has a song out called Make It Home. And he came out just recently, saying that he's a member of the LGBTQ plus community. And he was on the reboot of VH1's the Surreal Life, right? And so he's 30 years of age, and he was talking about uh, finding love, and love that feels limitless. And he was talking about that. And so he said love showed up, but in a new way. And then there was a man that came out on camera and they hugged. He sat down, they hugged. And he says, I want to share that and really honor the person that I love and that loves me back and teaching me so much about love and healing, the singer said. Now, I want to do that in front of the world because it defies all the constructs that one would say love is supposed to be or love should look like. So the song Cry Hitmaker didn't clarify his sexuality, but he announces he has a boyfriend. And this is something that, um, that they, this is just something that, he came out and announced yesterday. And a month prior to this, he had revealed that he was in a relationship. And this was an interview he did with Angela Lee on the Breakfast Club show. And and so it's just been a lot with this young man. And now he's saying that he found love, and it doesn't look like, the type of love that I guess we would think, being that a man is speaking about that as well. And so he has now found, love. And so if that's what he considers to be love, that is something that is his business. And let him move on. Uh, you know, um, with his life. Now, Natalia Bryant. Natalia Bryant is the daughter of Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, and she filed a restraining order request against an alleged stalker. Okay. And so now she's 19 years old now, Natalia Bryant. Uh, she filed a temporary restraining order request in Los Angeles County Superior Court on Monday, claiming a 32-year-old man with a rap sheet has been stalking her since she was a minor. Since she was a minor. Now, he's 32, she's 19, so obviously he's quite older than her. And she's accusing Dwayne Kemp of messaging her on social media since December 2020 as if we had a romantic relationship or as if he wanted to initiate such a relationship, according to court documents obtained by Fox News Digital. She says she does not know Kemp. Now, Bryant says Kemp tried to find her on the University of Southern California campus. The documents say Kemp is a gun enthusiast and has been arrested for misdemeanors involving a firearm, and that Bryant is terrified he's trying to make in-person contact with her. Can you imagine someone stalking you? You don't know who they are. They are a much older man as well. He's a gun enthusiast, and he's been stalking her and trying to meet her in person, find out where she's at on campus, and even saying he want to meet up with her. And she says, I don't feel safe. She don't feel safe in these documents. And she alleged that Kemp sent Bryant several creepy messages, saying he sent her creepy messages, including a response to an Instagram stories post showing Kobe and the rest of the family. The alleged message read, thankful for him birthing you. Hopefully we can birth him. Kobe. Now, I would be really leery and creepy of someone stalking me and talking like that and acting like they are in a relationship, romantic relationship, and they're not in a romantic relationship. And so on October 23rd, 2022, the documents say Kemp sent a message to Bryant saying, I love you and I'm sorry. Can we talk and make up so we can be friends again? Wow. So the documents also mention there have been at least 2 incidents involving Kemp and his alleged attempt to make in-person contact with Bryant. The documents state that Kemp stated his interest in purchasing a Glock switch, which is noted to be illegal to possess under federal law. The documents add that Bryant's representatives believe Kemp has been arrested 4 times. And so Brian is asking the court to order the man to stay at least 200 yards away from her home, job, school, and sorority, and her car. Because sometimes men will stalk you and be by your car and even try to steal your car, carjack your car, try to damage your car, do something, flatten your tires, all types of stuff to try to capture you, to try to hold you hostage, false imprisonment. And the judge has not ruled on the case. And so, TMZ Sports first reported on Bryant's request, and Kemp did not appear to react to the restraining order request on Monday, despite various social media posts. So he did not appear to react to the restraining order. So I guess he's like, I'm still going to be in love, I guess. Um, who knows what this is all about with this man? He needs to leave this young woman alone. Now, Sinbad, his family has reported on him that he's still learning to walk after 2 years, after having a stroke. And so it's been 2 years and he's still learning. And so in the first update since his medical emergency, the Star's family says he's got a long road ahead of him on the way to recovery. And now the family put out a lengthy release Monday. They're saying Sinbad was in the hospital for 9 months before his July release. That's a long time to be in the hospital. I wish Sinbad well. A lot of us know who Sinbad is, and he was very funny. And so for him to be in the hospital that long length of time, I knew he had something happen. I did a video on that way, 2 years ago. That's been a long time. But he was in the hospital for 9 months, and they say he's still fighting for every inch. And his limbs that were said to be dead are coming back to life. And they say he's taken all the steps he can to learn how to walk again. And so his survival rate from a stroke like his is around 30%. But they're celebrating him beating those odds. And his family also says they're looking for some help in the process, noting the cost of his therapy has far exceeded what insurance covers. And he probably maxed out of his insurance. There are limits on the insurance. They do have, a lot of insurance companies do have a limit that they place on the insurance. And so they say it's taking a financial toll on them, and they set up a website for anyone looking to contribute in any way that they can. And so with that being said, I hope that Mr. Sinbad covers, and that they will get the financial help that they need to meet his medical goals, since being in the hospital is definitely a long time, 9 months. And again, there is a cap on a lot of insurance policies. And with that being said, they more than likely have maxed out, and now they're seeking financial help to try to continue his therapy because it is well needed, and it has taken a long time for him to recover. So we wish Sinbad well, because what happened with him was a stroke. It was a blood clot that traveled from his heart to his brain. And after the first, he got another one, followed by brain swelling and a brain bleed. And that is not anything to play with. Now, I want to share a story with you of this man. And we talk a lot about these wrongful convictions, right? And we talk about these prosecutors with these wrongful convictions. And a lot of times the prosecutors do not get punished. They do not, nothing happens to them when they have done wrongdoing to take away someone else's life and put them behind bars for many, many decades. And so this is a man out of Ohio. He won a $45 million lawsuit after being wrongfully convicted, wrongfully imprisoned for 20 years. His name is Dean Gillespie. He was incarcerated actually for 26 years, and he has now been exonerated. So it says an Ohio man won $45 million in dollars. $45 million in a civil lawsuit against a police department and detective whose actions led to his wrongful conviction and more than 20 years behind bars. So he spent 26 years behind bars. Dean Gillespie, now he has sued the Miami Township Police and former detective Scott Moore for suppressing evidence and tainting eyewitness identifications in the 1991 rape and kidnapping case against Gillespie. So we see that a lot, and we hear that a lot, where prosecutors are suppressing evidence and tainting, tainting eyewitnesses and things like that. And we see this happen so often. And like I just shared a story with you a couple of weeks ago on Maurice Hastings, where evidence came out and he was not the rapist or murderer, and yet still he spent like 39 years, I believe it was, behind bars. And so he is now free because the new evidence, but they had the evidence, the district attorney, and he refused to turn it over. And so Gascon got involved here in California, and said, when you get evidence, you are to quickly, swiftly turn it over. And I think that these prosecutors definitely need to be, or district attorneys definitely need to be prosecuted themselves when they are participating in corruption, especially in the discovery of evidence, because that is so wrong that anyone's life will be taken like that, and they will be found convicted and placed behind bars for decades, even just a short time. 1 day or 2 days is too many, but more than 20 years behind bars. That's 2 decades behind bars for a crime that he did not commit. And so they convicted him in 1991 in Montgomery County and he was released from prison in 2011. Now, the Ohio Innocent Project, which most of you probably have heard of, the Innocent Project, and you can give to that. You can contribute to the Innocent Project, on your own, or you can give donate to someone else that does it in their name, and then they share information about that. But a lot of us have heard about the Innocent Project. And so the Ohio Innocent Project at the University of Cincinnati Law School, former Ohio Attorney General Jim Petro and Dean's mother Juana Gillespie worked to free him and clear his name. Now, today, Gillespie is 57 years of age and lives in Fairborn, a suburb of Dayton. Now, he says the horror, they go on to talk about the horror inflicted on Dean and his family and community is hard to wrap your mind around. Ohio Innocent Project Director Mark Godsey said, the way the authorities pushed through a conviction, then fought back and refused to admit a mistake was so disappointing. And that's the thing, when you have prosecutors and even judges that refuse to admit when they make a mistake because they're more concerned about getting reelected back in office, or staying in that seat that they're in, that they don't come out and admit when they make a mistake. And that's what's, and it's wrong, because no judge is perfect, no prosecutors like the district attorneys, none of them are perfect. And when they make a mistake, they should own up to it because they took an oath. And we're talking about honest integrity here, right? We're talking about your moral compass. We're talking about being able to admit when you're wrong. And even though it's a grievous error, admit the wrong, because when you think about you laying down at night after you have done somebody wrong, you're not going to rest. There is no rest for the weary, and you will not be able to sleep. And that is going to be up on your conscience night and day until you do the right thing. And people say, nah, they ain't worried about, they go on with their life. Yeah, they do. But a lot of them talk about it. Remember the judge I talked to you about a month ago that was laughing and talking about all that stuff he did and pulled a gun out on defendant in the courtroom, and look at what happened to him. He finally got karma. He reaping what he sowed, and eventually these people probably are going to reap what they sow when they have done wrong to people and they think that they have gotten away with it. But I am convinced that it's important that when we find out that state attorneys, district attorneys and judges know about evidence that can clear someone, and they refuse to allow that evidence in and to ignore it or to hide it or suppress it, they need to be prosecuted. It doesn't matter how many decades ago that it happened. This man served 26 years behind bars, and they did, this officer and the district attorney, that was in this, the DA, they need to be held accountable for this. Take their life away and put them behind bars, because they deserve to be there, not for a tit for a tat, but they deserve to be there because they were wrong and they committed a crime and they violated someone's constitutional rights, and they violated, them having, during their trial, of presenting evidence that will be accurate evidence that will lead to, either a conviction or not a conviction. And so getting back, it says the way the authorities pushed through a conviction and then fought back and refused to admit a mistake was so disappointing. Nothing can repay Dean for the horror. He added, the jury's verdict sends a strong message that those in power need to change the way they do things. Yes, things need to be changed. The way things are done now need to be changed. Our judicial system needs an overhaul. Now, justice prevailed in this case, although it took a long, 3 longs. That's how long it took. Long, right? Time for that to occur, said Petro, who co-authored a book with his wife, Nancy, about wrongful convictions. And I think I want to look that up and see about his book and look it up. It might be in the library and check it out, and see what's going on. And then David Owens, whose firm Lobby and Lovey represents wrongfully convicted clients and represented Gillespie and said they believe $45 million sets an Ohio record. That's a lot of money, and it is unclear. We don't know if Miami Township or more will seek to appeal the case or when Gillespie might receive payment. He needs to receive his payment swiftly. He needs to make sure that they need to make sure that this man gets his payment. And guess what? Uh he needs to just keep following up, making sure his attorneys follow up, that they do not overlook his lawsuit of what he received. Because a lot of times they can let rest, because some things like with restitution in states expire. It has an expiration on, you may not know that. And then with his, it was a lawsuit and he won money. So you want to make sure that you stay on top of that so that you can get the money that you need to try to at least restart your life, and you don't have to worry about a job, because being that you have been convicted like that, even if you were exonerated, you're still going to have a hard time with people wanting to give you a job. The stigma behind that, the gossip, the slander, the defamation of character, all those things play a big part in it especially when you are wrongfully convicted, right? Not just a conviction, but it's even wrongfully convicted, not just someone that did commit a crime, but someone that did not. And so I want to share this with you too as well about the grandson, that Aldrich guy, the young man. Let me see. It looks like, let me see if it'll come up. They might have not allowed me to talk, but I still can bring it up. But I'm going to just share with you. I had already read this story about Aldrich, the young man that the 22 years old that shot up the Club Q nightclub out up there in Colorado. Let me explain something. His grandfather is Randy Vopel. He's an East County politician out of Santee, California. I used to reside in San Diego, and Santee was a very racist town, and it was very segregated. Now there's a lot more blacks that live out there now, and but he is the grandson of Randy Vopel, and Randy Vopel had some kind of, and I can't get to the article, but it was some remarks that he had made at one point that were not very positive when it came down to the January 6th assault on the Capitol, right? And so this young man that opened up gunfire, killing 5, I believe, and wounding 25, is the grandson of this East County politician. And so I want to share that with you as well. And there's a lot of more stories out here. The Chrisleys, he received 12 years. The reality TV Chrisleys. Now, if you know who they are a couple, and they have some children, and they are a reality TV show. Well, they were accused of bank fraud and tax evasion earlier this year. And so they have been sentenced to lengthy prison sentences. So Todd Chrisley was given a 12-year prison sentence by U.S. District Judge Eleanor Ross. And we are seeing a lot more female judges, just so you know. And I'm pretty sure if you're following these judges, there are a lot of female judges now that are on the bench. And so he was given 12 years in prison, while his wife, Julie Chrisley, got 7 years behind bars, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Atlanta. And each is to serve 3 years supervised release after they serve their 12 and 7-year sentences respectively. And Judge Ross also ordered them to pay restitution in an amount that will be determined later. And so the name of their reality TV show, if you follow it, is called The Chrisleys Knows Best. And I have watched it when I watch television, but I'm not a big television watcher. I very seldom turn on my television. But I do watch sports because I love sports, basketball and football. But and I love Law and Order. But overall, I just really stopped watching television. It just wasn't something that I was interested in. The focus was, I was really focused on schoolwork and other things that were more productive. But at one point, I found solace in, watching Law and Order, and I would come across the Chrisley Knows Best TV reality show, and I was entertained by it. And so, this particular couple now are facing some extensive jail time. They said the couple engaged in an extensive bank fraud scheme and then hid their wealth from tax authorities while flaunting their lavish lifestyle. And that's what they did. They had a lavish lifestyle. I'm not going to say they flaunted it, but they're saying that they did. And they built an empire based on a lie that their wealth came from dedication and hard work, is what they wrote in their pre-sentencing court filing, because they definitely wanted them to get, you know, uh a longer sentence. Oh, hi, I ride. I ride solo. I didn't even see you in there, but how are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I've seen you around, but thank you for stopping by. I'm glad that you are here. How have you been? I hope you've been doing very well, blessed, good, good. And I do want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And in this season, that may you continue to prosper and be blessed. It's good, good, good to see you. And so they said that they were swindlers. The Chrisleys were swindlers, and they made a living by jumping from one fraud scheme to another, lying to banks, stiffing vendors, and evading taxes. They were saying that also, doing very well. I'm doing a stick with it 6 weeks, exercise with, people that want to join in, virtually or even outside of YouTube. And that's going pretty good. And I'm able to, just encourage people, to get motivated for better health, right? And better health, and to be young and vibrant, and to just live and be happy, and even for your mental health, to just get out there. And then the videos are on here. There's 6 of them, and it's taken from the book Walk with Ease. Walk with Ease, and it's on my channel. So if you get a chance that you want to, take some time to listen to the videos, they're very detailed. They are. And then there's also, you can look for the book. It might be at the library. You may purchase the book, or you can download some of the forms PDF, because it lets you know about you can keep record. There's a diary. There's a contract. Very, very informative. And this book was actually, it's from the Authorization Foundation, but it was put together, written with extensive research by doctors. And so it's really, really a good book. And it also, it's talking about, like, if you have joint replacement, joint problems, knee problems, arthritis, things like that. And it does help even people with those type of, uh, issues, to still be able to get moving. And then even in the back of the book, it has, it definitely has some credits, but it also has exercises, types of exercise, and always making sure to stretch before you do any exercise. And if you need to contact your provider, your doctor, and say, hey, I want to start this exercise, that's always a good thing. And the other thing is that, about that is just being able to just, um, any exercise that you start, whatever mode of exercise, walking is an easy exercise, putting one foot in front of the other. But whatever exercise that you choose to do, and wherever you're at, that's where you start. No judgment, and be encouraged. And that's really what what it's about. The model that I developed was stick with this 6 weeks. And so if you choose to start it today, your 6 week starts today. Or if you choose to start it tomorrow, your 6 weeks starts, and it's an ongoing thing. So whoever comes on board, is their 6 weeks start at that time. But getting back to these Chrisleys, they were saying how they stole money, and that they would get loans and they wouldn't pay the loans back, and things like that. So they were definitely sentenced to some extensive jail time. And there's just a lot of stuff that that go on. And I wanted to share this because this father, he has a 19-year-old, and his daughter she was 2 at the time, that he went to prison, but he shot an officer. Now, I was reading this article because the daughter is 19. She has a baby, so he's a grandfather. His name is uh, Kevin Johnson, and this happened out in Kirkwood, Missouri. And during that time, and Kirkwood is still a pretty racist town. I'm originally from Ferguson, Missouri, and so I saw how those police officers, how they do out there. They do show biasness and racial profiling. And so Kirkwood, Missouri was a very segregated town, right? And there were very, if any, blacks out there at the time. And my mom used to drive the bus out there. She drove the bus, city bus, out there, and she saw it and she experienced it. And so what happened is he was at home, and he was on probation for domestic violence, right? And so the officers was coming. It was 3 officers. They came um, they believed that he had violated his probation. And so what happened is he woke up his younger brother, who was 12 years old, that had some medical problems, and had him to go to the grandmother's house, who lived next door. Well, what happened is his young brother was 12. He had a seizure. He went into a seizure. Now, the officer would not allow the grandmother to go and try to intervene, to help go into the house to help his 12-year-old brother. And so his 12-year-old brother passed away in the hospital after that. And so this is just an overview of what transpired. And he wind up shooting the officer because the officer came back later on saying he was responding to some fireworks noise. And so I had some questions about that, because I said, why would he come back? And the fireworks were going off? Did he assume that the Johnsons were popping them? Did it just happen to be in the where Kevin Johnson resided at? And Kevin Johnson wind up shooting the officer, and then shot him again, stood over and shot him, and he was convicted, and he was 19 years of age. And so they gave him the death penalty, and they wanted to execute him. But his 19-year-old daughter, they filed an appeal asking from the American Civil Liberties Union, filed an emergency motion with the federal court in Kansas City, asking that she be able to see her father's execution. Now, so it says right here, a 19-year-old woman is asking a federal court to allow her to watch her father's death by injection, despite a Missouri law barring anyone under 21 from witnessing an execution. Now, Kevin Johnson faces execution November 29th for killing Kirkwood, Missouri police officer William McEntee in 2005. Johnson's lawyers have appeals pending that seek to spare his life. Meanwhile, Johnson has requested that his daughter, Corey Ramey, attend the execution, and she wants to be there. So on Monday, the American Civil Liberties Union filed an emergency motion with the federal court in Kansas City, which that's the ACLU. And the court filing said the law barring under 21 serves to no safety purpose and violates Ramey's constitutional rights. Ramey, in a court declaration, called Johnson the most important person in her life. She said, if my father were dying in the hospital, I would sit by his bed, holding his hand and praying for him until his death, both as a source of support for him and as a support for me, as a necessary part of my grieving process and for my peace of mind, is what Ramey said. Now, Johnson, he's 37 years of age. He has been incarcerated since Ramey, his daughter, was 2 years of age. So he's been incarcerated for quite some time. And now the ACLU has said the two have been able to build a bond through visits, phone calls, emails, and letters. And last month, she brought her newborn son to the prison to meet his grandfather. Now, the ACLU attorney Anthony Rother said if Ramey can't attend the execution, it will cause her irreparable harm. Now, meanwhile, while Johnson's lawyers have filed appeals seeking to halt the execution, they don't challenge his guilt, but claim racism played a role in the decision to seek the death penalty and in the jury's decision to sentence him to die. Johnson is Black and McEntee was white. The late Officer McEntee was white. Now, Johnson's lawyers also have asked the courts to intervene for other reasons, including a history of mental illness and his age. He was 19 at the time of the crime, and courts have increasingly moved away from sentencing teen offenders to death since the Supreme Court in 2005 banned the execution of offenders who were younger than 18 at the time of their crime. And so in a court filing last week to the U.S. Supreme Court, the Missouri Attorney General office stated there were no grounds for court intervention. Now, the surviving victims of the Johnson crimes, they feel, have waited long enough for justice, and every day longer they must wait is a day they are denied the chance to finally make peace with their loss, the state petition stated. Now, McEntee, husband and father of three, was among the police officers sent to Johnson's home on July 5th, 2005 to serve a warrant for his arrest because Johnson was on probation for assaulting his girlfriend, and police believed he had violated his probation. And I'll talk about this when I'm done with giving you the information. So Johnson saw officers arrive. He, like I said, he woke his 12-year-old brother. His brother's name was Joseph. They called him Bam Bam, last name Long, who ran next door to his grandmother's house. Once there, the boy, who suffered from a congenital heart defect, collapsed and began having a seizure. Johnson testified at trial that McEntee kept his mother from entering the house to aid his brother, who died a short time later at a hospital. Now, later that evening, McEntee he returned to the neighborhood to check on unrelated reports of fireworks being shot off. That's when he encountered Johnson. Johnson pulled a gun and shot the officer. He then approached the wounded, kneeling officer and shot him again, killing him. The execution would be the first of three in the coming months in Missouri, and the state plans to execute some other convicted killers, Scott McLaughlin on January 3rd and Leonard Taylor on February 7th. And since then, there have been 16 men have been executed in the United States this year. Alabama inmate Kenneth Eugene Smith has been scheduled to die Thursday for killing a preacher's wife in a murder for hire plot, but the execution was halted because state officials couldn't find a suitable vein to inject the lethal drugs. Now, I'm going to say this about this article. I believe that they are leaving something out, because when it gets down here where it says that the late officer, McEntee, he was the officer that Johnson shot when he was 19 years of age, and he shot him again, saying that he encountered Johnson. And I believe that that officer deliberately went over there, and this is in my opinion, that McEntee deliberately went back over there to where the Johnsons lived at. And because I don't believe that he just happened to encounter Johnson. I mean, it's not impossible, but I believe that his intentions, he went back over there. Maybe he thought that the Johnsons were popping fireworks because, again, Kirkwood, Missouri is still racist, but they were segregated for a long time. And so I believe that he deliberately went back over there. His intentions was to go back over there because these officers a lot of times do racial profiling. I'm not saying all of them, but there are some vindictive officers out here that, do things. And I believe that he went back over there trying to throw his power around or exercise his power. And he went back over there because I don't believe it was just a coincidence that he encountered Johnson. I think there was more to the story, that something happened between the officer and Johnson. When Johnson saw the officer or the officer saw Johnson, something happened in between that, and then Johnson shot him, and then he shot him again. But also Johnson, the late officer McEntee, he didn't allow his Johnson's 12-year-old brother to get medical help also, and his brother died a short time at the hospital when he finally got there, because the officer did not allow Johnson's mother to see about his younger brother who had a medical emergency. And I was reading some of the comments under this article, and they were saying that he committed the crime. He needs to, they need to take him out, all this other stuff. And I just don't agree with that, because this officer, he violated his oath as a public servant. He violated his oath to make sure that this, that if there was a medical emergency or a crisis, why didn't he call 911 right away? Or why didn't he allow, the mother to seek, to try to help her son? He could have went, it was three officers there. So one of the officers could at least escorted, because there was other two officers there, into the house. We're dealing with, a mother, a grandmother, a 12-year-old, and a 19-year-old. And you got three police officers, right? That should be trained professionally, but they deliberately devalued this 12-year-old's life, is what I'm saying, my opinion, that they devalued the 12-year-old's life. They didn't have a regard for this young boy's life, and he passed away a short time later at the hospital. And so I do believe there was more to what transpired. It just wasn't by coincidence that Johnson and this officer, encountered each other all of a sudden. I think the officer went back over there, and my question was, how far was these fireworks from the Johnson's house? What was the proximity of where these fireworks was going off that he would encounter Johnson? You see what I'm saying? Unless Johnson was down there wherever the fireworks were, unless they were around where Johnson lived. And so there was just some different questions. And because he was so young at the time, and he's been serving a sentence. He's now 37 years of age. So he's been incarcerated for a very long time. And so no one never looks at, no one never looks at the things that other people do, but they always look at the deceased, and they never look at what the person did before they were deceased. And I think about that even with some of these civil suits that come out too, like with the Herschel Walker. And I'm not capping for Herschel Walker or whatever. I'm just saying, with this woman that just came out, Gloria Allred is on this case. I heard the recording of this woman saying that she was coerced into getting an abortion. And my thing is if you were you were messing with a married man. You were messing with a married man that was married to someone else. So how would you feel if your husband was messing with another woman and that other woman was the mistress? And so to me, I don't feel she's a victim, because she was in the clinic, and to me, she had a way out. She could have got a way out where she did not have to have the abortion. And she did. She said that Herschel Walker wrote a letter to her parents telling them how much he loved her. And he told her he was going to divorce his wife. But you knew the man was married. You knew this man was married. So you're not a victim. You participated in messing, and you participated in an adulterous love affair. It was a consensual relationship. And now you're coming out decades later with Gloria Allred sitting up there, because they showed a picture of her and this other woman, and it was a recording of her talking about, I'm saying, no, you're not a victim. And I'm not trying to give you any of that. And you cannot be inducted into the hall of victimhood, because you are not a victim. And this is really sad when these women come out here, and try to paint the picture that they are victims, when they were actually participating in participating in consensual relationships with these men. And then they want to come back decades later saying they was forced and coerced into something. But you were laying up with a married man. It's the same thing with what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. And I had been talking about him too. Amy Udoka, yes, him. The woman she's married, 3 children, and sleeping with a married woman, sleeping with this man, committing adultery, but they want to paint her as a victim. And this stuff has got to stop. Women got to take some responsibility and accountability for their own choices and decisions that they make, and stop acting like they're victims when they are participating in these consensual relationships. And when you look at even Betty Broderick, that murdered her late ex-husband Dan Broderick, and his new wife, that woman, the new wife he married, she knew this man was married, and she engaged herself in an adulterous relationship with this man, both of them, And Betty Broderick had a breakdown and she lost it. And this woman, the wife, had put this man, her husband, Dan, because he was a very prominent attorney in San Diego at the time. And this woman, his wife, put him through school. Blood, sweat, and tears, different jobs. And I think she even probably sold Avon. But she was doing her best to take care of the children and make sure this man was able to go to law school, became prominent, and then he started having an affair with his secretary or assistant. And then when it all came out, her family was like, well, she was beautiful and they was in love. But no one never questioned her behavior of committing adultery with someone else's husband. But Betty Broderick is incarcerated, serving jail time, right? Prison time. And no one looks at both sides of that. And I just feel women have to make better choices, but start owning up to the decisions that they make. And there are consequences that happen, that God allows to happen. And you know, in some countries, adultery, they stone you. Over here, you know, it happens and people get away with it, but over in other countries, they stone you for adultery. They do. And I'm not saying, you know, that someone should be stoned over here, but I'm just telling you what they do in these other countries. Now, my last story that I'll cover with you, and then I will get off and I'll be back, you know, in the future, like I said, because there's a lot of things to catch up on. But I wanted to know what your opinion is about these women are now suing the makers of chemical hair straighteners. And I think this is something that we do as Black women need to talk about, period. They were diagnosed with uterine cancer and tumors. Now they're suing the makers of chemical hair straighteners. Now, a recent study found that women who reported frequent use of hair straightening products were more than twice as likely to develop uterine cancer than women who did not. And so, Rhonda Terrell, she's 55, of Gwen, Alabama. She said, if I had known all those years, if they had a warning on the box to say this could cause cancer, I wouldn't have used it. She lost her hair doing chemotherapy and had a wig installed recently. Now, 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with the aggressive form of uterine cancer that has since spread to her abdomen and liver. She underwent a radical hysterectomy, the removal of the uterus, cervix, ovaries, and fallopian tubes, and tried to come to terms with the way the disease had altered her life. She says, I don't like to look at the survival rates, Terrell said through tears. Cancer is such a painful, painful, painful condition. Now, Terrell is one of 4 Black women, 3 of whom spoke to NBC News exclusively, who have filed federal lawsuits against Loreal and other companies, alleging that chemicals in the company's hair products caused them to develop uterine cancer or other severe health effects. Now, the lawsuits follow the release last month of a study by the National Institutes of Health that found that women who reported frequent use of hair straightening products, defined as more than 4 times in the previous year, were more than twice as likely to develop uterine cancer compared to those who did not use the products. And so, according to the lawsuits, 3 of the women have had a hysterectomy, one of them at age 28, which is young. Now, Terrell, 55, of Gwen, Alabama, says she began relaxing her hair at age 8. Now, that's a young age to start relaxing your hair. So I wonder if someone was doing it for her, or she learned how to do it herself at age 8, but that's a very young age to be wearing a perm. And she stopped in her late 30s or early 40s. So she's not exactly sure when she stopped. She said it was her late 30s or early 40s, and she has uterine carcinosarcoma and underwent 6 rounds of chemotherapy and was in remission for a little over 2 years before the cancer returned in July on her liver and abdomen, or according to an interview and her lawsuit. And she is undergoing chemotherapy. Now, she says, again, if she had known they had a warning on the box, she would have stopped. She wouldn't have used it. And she wants to hold them accountable because she have granddaughters. And then there is Bernadette Gordon, who used chemical relaxers from around 1983 to 2015, believes they caused her to develop breast and uterine cancer. So she believes this, but she's not exactly sure. But however, according to her lawsuit, she was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017 at age 44, underwent 6 months of aggressive chemotherapy, and had a double mastectomy in March 2018. And in 2021, she was diagnosed with uterine cancer and underwent a hysterectomy, followed by 6 months of chemotherapy and radiation. Now, Gordon, 49, of Springfield, Illinois, grew emotional as she recounted the back-to-back cancer diagnoses and treatments have taken on her body and her life. And she says, it's been devastating for me, she said. Now, all of the women said they were unaware that the use of chemical straighteners had put them at an increased risk of cancer until the release of the NIH study. And there was never anything on the product's packaging, they said, and their lawsuits alleged, indicating that normal use of the products could cause them to develop uterine fibroids or breast or uterine cancer. Now, Alexandra White, head of the Environment and Cancer Epidemiology Group of the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences and the lead author on the study, cautioned that the study did not prove that their hair straightening products cause uterine cancer. Now, this study is the first to show a possible link between use of hair straightening products and uterine cancer, she said. But the women and their lawyers believe otherwise. Deandra DeBrossi Zimmerman, who is among the attorneys representing the women, said that the science is out there that supports our position. She said the complaints cite a number of studies that she believes will prove chemical hair straighteners are substantial contributing causes and ultimately cause uterine cancer and a number of other conditions. Now, hair products such as dye and chemical straighteners, relaxers contain a number of chemicals that may act as carcinogens or endocrine disruptors and thus may be important for cancer risk, Wright said. Now, straighteners in particular have been found to include chemicals such as phthalates, parabens, cyclosilanoxanes, and metals, and may release formaldehyde when heated, she said. Loreal did not return a request for comment as to whether its products could or did include these ingredients. The researchers did not collect information on brands or ingredients in the hair products the women use, and the rates of uterine cancer are still relatively low, accounting for 3.4% of estimated new cancer cases this year, according to the National Cancer Institute. Now, rates of uterine cancer in the U.S. have been increasing. However, especially among Black women. Now, if you go back and look at my video that I did last month on breast cancer and breast cancer and ovarian cancer, go back, look at that video, because there are some stats that I gave in that video and let you know that uterine cancer actually is increasing especially among Black women. It really is. And so White said the study showed Black women were disproportionately more likely to use hair straighteners. The study found that 1.6% of women who never use chemical hair straighteners or relaxers will go on to develop uterine cancer by the age of 70. And for frequent users, that risk more than doubles, increasing to 4.05%. Now, in a statement, Loreal said it is confident in the safety of their products and believe the recent lawsuits filed against us have no legal merit. Loreal upholds the highest standards of safety for all of its products, the company said. Our products are subject to a rigorous scientific evaluation of their safety by experts who also ensure that we follow strictly all regulations in every market in which we operate. Now, Loreal also shared a statement from the Personal Care Products Council, a national trade Association representing cosmetics and personal care products companies in response to the study, stating that the study did not prove that the products or their ingredients directly cause uterine cancer. It also states that all cosmetic products and their ingredients, including hair straighteners and relaxers, are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and other companies named in the lawsuit did not return requests for comment. The women are seeking compensatory damages as well as payment for medical bills, attorney fees, and other expenses. Now, Rugi Yaidu Bonofa, 39, of Vallejo, California, and Jenny Mitchell, 32, a Missouri resident whose plans to have children were dashed when she was diagnosed with uterine cancer at 28 and underwent a hysterectomy. Both have filed lawsuits. They, like the other women, said they used chemical hair straighteners because they felt from employers. Now, they felt from employers to wear their hair straight and to try to meet white beauty standards. This has changed over time as more women embrace their natural hair textures and wear a natural hairstyle. She said, I have to worry about whether or not I'm going to get it again, if it's going to come back in a different form, Mitchell said. Once you have uterine cancer, you can be more susceptible to colon cancer or to breast cancer. A lot of people don't know that. Now, Binofa, whose lawsuit was filed October 21st, believes her fibroids were directly caused by her regular and prolonged exposure to the phthalates and other endocrine disrupting chemicals found in the hair care products she used. Now, it's a hard thing to have to come to the realization that you're dealing with fibroids, pregnancy loss, she said, and you had no inkling that these products were dangerous. You didn't know that any of these harmful products were in it. Obviously, you wouldn't have used them if you knew. Now, civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, who is also representing Mitchell and Garden, said the lawsuits are about bringing awareness and getting these products off of store shelves. It's about trying to tell every Black and brown parent out there that we should not continue to try to conform to European standards of beauty by having our hair straightened with these chemicals at the expense of possibly having our uterus destroyed and not being able to have babies, Crump said. So it's a public health crisis. Now, I'm not sure how prevalent it is, but I know a lot of women have complained about happen to conform to the white, to European standards when it comes to wearing their hair straight versus natural hairstyles. And one of the questions that I have here is that these women are suing Loreal and other companies, especially these last two that talk about societal pressure, including from employers. Now, I wonder if you have sued the employers for putting that pressure up on you. That's a good question that I have. Have you tried to reach out to the employers? Have you sued them? Are they named in this lawsuit that they put pressure on you to wear your hair straight or to make you feel like you had to wear your hair straight? Because I'm not here to, put any woman down that have experienced any type of trauma. But I also know that that has happened to a lot of women about wearing, natural hairstyles. I wore a fro to work a couple of times and people wanted to touch mine and I didn't want them to. And they find that to be, this thing about wanting to touch your hair for whatever reason, and so a mystery or whatever, they, want to touch it and see if it's soft or see if it's whatever, And so another thing is too, but getting back to, have you tried to, are the employers in that named in the lawsuit? Because if they were making you feel pressure and that they were harassing you, for who you were, because remember, employers are not supposed to harass people for their creed or origin. And so if they've done that, have you named them in the lawsuit to sue them as well, not just the hair product, but to sue the employers that made you feel pressured? Because you said including from employers to wear your hair straight and to try to meet white beauty standards. So are you suing the employers, your employer, or the ones that did that to you, so that these employers can understand that they don't have a right to tell you, that you have to wear straight hair, permed hair, or natural hair. Now, I know that, they don't want you coming in there with some green hair and some far-fetched hair in certain organizations and in professional environments. But however, anybody that harasses, and harms and treats a person with bias and racism and discrimination in a company, they deserve to have some type of uh, punishment, and they should be put on notice. So again, what did you do during that time? Did you keep your mouth shut and feel like you just had to do, conform to a certain standard, beauty standard? Or did you go to HR and try talking to them? Because nobody should really be trying to tell you really if you should straighten your hair and put a perm in it and wear it straight, or how you should be able to, wear your hair. And I know that has happened a lot with a lot of different women where they have talked about it, and that's why they've passed the Crown Act and things like that. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for coming in the chat that did come in. Thank you all for tuning in that were in the bushes. Thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. And if you didn't give a thumbs up, please do so. Don't forget to share this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are not a subscriber. But please also, if you come back to watch the video, there are some good points in here, some good takeaways that we can all, take away and share with others. A lot of different things that I have shared in this video and bringing awareness to a lot of people, Americans traveling over to other countries and not making it back home. That's a problem. And we definitely don't want to, minimize what's happening with people traveling and not making it back home in these other countries. We have to continue to do these stories and get these stories out here and bring awareness, and also make sure that we get to the bottom of the truth, and not just reporting conspiracy theories and and things like that, but getting to the truth. And so, like I said earlier, I want to get to the truth of certain things that have happened recently. And so for me, again, my prayers are with Shanquella Robinson's family. My prayers is with each and every family that have recently lost a loved one. And may that you get justice that you are seeking, and may that you receive closure and a peace that surpasses all understanding. And may God wrap his loving, divine hands and arms around you, that you will feel confident and safe in your time of need. And again, I will be back tomorrow, but I also want to wish everyone that if you are not tuning in on social media, but you have tuned in today or this evening, that you will have a beautiful, thankful Thanksgiving holiday, enjoying yourself, with your family or loved ones, or even if you're just by yourself, that you will have peace and that you will be okay, and watching football and just doing whatever your heart's desire during this time off. If you are working and you have some time off, that you spend it however that you want to spend it, whether it's a traditional Thanksgiving or it is not. But may you have the love of God up on you. Good night, everyone. God bless you all.